My name is Alina Carter. I'm 70 now. And this is the story I kept buried, not out of shame, but because a mother always hopes her child will come back. But sometimes hope becomes a kind of cruelty. It started on a Saturday in April. The morning sky stretched wide and gentle, a kind of blue that promised peace, the kind that fools you into thinking nothing can go wrong. I had spent weeks choosing my dress, champagne-colored. Elegant but quiet. A mother should never outshine the bride, only frame her day with grace. In my purse, I carried a silk handkerchief embroidered with my mother's initials, my little inheritance of love and memory. The church glowed that morning. White flowers lined every aisle, their scent mixing with candle wax and whispered prayers. Soft music drifted from the organ, and there, at the altar, stood my son Ryan, my only child. The boy I once rocked to sleep through fevers. The young man I held when his father walked out. He was smiling like sunlight. And when he glanced my way just before the ceremony, I thought maybe the years hadn't changed him after all. I was wrong, the vows were perfect, the applause gentle. When they kissed, people clapped like the world had stopped to bless them. I stayed seated in the third row, not the front, the third, telling myself it didn't matter. That all mothers eventually fade into the background. Afterward, everyone poured into the reception hall, a palace of crystal and gold. Laughter, violins, champagne bubbles. I walked slowly, greeting relatives who barely remembered my name. They seated me somewhere near the back, no one asked, no one noticed. It should have warned me, but I told myself not to make a fuss. I was still trying to believe this day was about love when I saw Ryan walking toward me. That familiar look was back, the one he wore as a teenager before saying something sharp. And beside him, Vanessa Stone, his bride, the picture of composure, every inch of her polished and perfect. Her smile was polite, cold. The kind that says you don't belong here. Mom, Ryan said loudly, his voice cut through the music, dozens of heads turned. I need to talk to you. Of course, dear, I answered softly. Shall we step outside? No, he said. Here's fine. The crack of his hand against my cheek silenced the room. Music froze mid-note. Forks hung midair, even the chandeliers seemed to stop shimmering. Before I could breathe, the second slap came. My face burned, but it wasn't the pain that broke me. It was the eyes. 200 eyes, staring, judging, pitying, and in front of them all my son said words colder than winter air. You're not welcome here, Mom. Leave. For a heartbeat I thought I'd misheard. But the silence that followed confirmed it. I didn't cry, didn't scream. I just reached into my purse, held that embroidered handkerchief, my mother's initials glowing faintly under the lights, and walked out. Step by step, head high, even as everything inside me crumbled. No one stopped me, no one even called my name. Outside, the cool air bit my swollen skin. I leaned against the stone wall, and the tears finally came. Not because of the slap, but because I'd just lost my son, not to death, but to someone else's hands. The taxi ride home was a blur of streetlights and silence. I kept the handkerchief clutched tight, tracing the old stitches like a prayer. When I reached my house, I made tea chamomile the way I always did when Ryan was sick. But this time I drank it alone. And that night, as the clock ticked louder than usual, something shifted. The pain wasn't just pain anymore. It was clarity. A voice inside whispered enough. That was the night I decided to stop being silent. Because some wounds mark the skin, others mark the road you'll take next. She thought the slap ended the story. But what she'd uncover next would prove it was only the beginning, and the truth would hurt far worse. Before the hall, before the chandeliers went still, there was a small boy who fit inside the crook of my arm. He smelled like milk and warm laundry. He hummed when he slept, a soft little engine of breathing that paced my nights. Ryan was born on a rainy Tuesday, hospital lights, metal carts, the hiss of the oxygen line. He was all fists and fury until they laid him on my chest. His fingers opened, found mine, and something in me clicked into place, like a key turned, like a door I'd been waiting my whole life to enter. We made a world inside a little house on Delaney Street, yellow paint peeling on the porch, a mailbox that leaned forward like it was listening. In the kitchen, the fridge hummed and the morning sun laid a rectangle of gold across the floor. That's where he learned to walk, toe to heel, wobble to wobble, toward me, always toward me. He was a chatterbox by three, dinosaurs under his pillow, crayons lined up like soldiers. He'd pat my cheeks with sticky hands and say, "You're it, mama," as if love were a game we could win by tagging each other gently. The first fever came on a winter night. Window frosted, radiator ticking like a metronome. I made chamomile tea and cooled it with honey. I pressed a cool cloth, the one with my mother's embroidered initials, to his burning face. "SHH," I whispered. "I'm here." He blinked up at me, trusting. The kind of trust that makes a person want to be good forever. His father left on a Saturday. Suitcase, apologies that tasted like tin, a promise to call that never found a phone. Ryan was 7 in rocket ship pajamas, hair standing up like he was charged with static. He asked the question no child should ever ask. "Is it because of me?" I gathered him close, the weight of his fear heavier than any bag. "No," I said into his hair, "never because of you." He nodded like he believed me, but I felt something small in him curl tight like a leaf when frost comes. We became a unit after that, 2 spoons clinking in one bowl. Grilled cheese dinners on the counter. I worked mornings at the florist, evenings at the library on Thursdays. He did his homework at a round table near the window, feet swinging. He'd look up at me between math problems and grin. It softened every rough edge. We had rituals, Saturday waffles, a silly dance we called the wiggle when the radio played old Motown. In the spring, we planted zinnias in a crooked row beside the mailbox. He picked the red ones for me. Always the red ones. The first crack didn't sound like glass breaking. It sounded like a door closing softly. 12 years old. A new school, a heavier backpack, a voice that sometimes came out too deep to recognize. He stopped telling me everything, not all at once, just one small thing at a time until it added up to silence. At the grocery store, he drifted 3 aisles away. At pickup, he waved me off and walked home with friends whose laughter sounded like they were in on a joke I couldn't hear. He pulled away when I went to fix his collar. "Don't, Mom," he said, staring over my shoulder. "Not here." I told myself it was normal. Boys are supposed to need space. It's how they turn into men. I told myself a lot of things meant for braver women. 14 brought storms, not the loud, noble kind. The low, gray kind that sits on the house for days. His room smelled like cologne and old sweat. The window was always cracked, no matter how cold, as if a piece of him was already outside, waiting for him to catch up. He joined soccer, ran like he was being chased by something only he could see. I cheered, I clapped, I packed orange slices in Ziplocs. On the sideline, other mothers stood in neat clusters. I stood a little apart and pretended that was a choice. There were late nights, a dent in the car door he didn't notice or didn't want to, a lie told so smoothly it almost sounded like the truth. I was at Matt's. Homework, don't worry so much. Once I found a bottle in the bottom of his backpack, not empty, not full, just enough to say something had shifted. I held it in my hands long enough to feel the chill. When I asked, he didn't yell, he laughed. "Relax, Mom, everyone does it." He wasn't cruel then, just careless the way the young can be, but carelessness can bruise as deeply as a blow. The worst day wasn't even the loudest. It was a Tuesday, always Tuesdays for our turning points. I asked about his grades. He asked me why I was still wearing the same dress I wore to parent night last year. He looked at me like he'd found a new angle, something sharp. "Maybe Dad left because you liked playing victim," he said. He didn't mean it, he meant it. Both things can be true at once. He cried in the doorway 10 minutes later, cheeks blotchy, voice cracking. "I didn't mean that." I cupped his face. "I know, and I did, but the words had already found a place to live inside me. They made themselves at home. At 16, he reached for my wrist in anger and grabbed too hard, not a slap. Not quite, a quick, hot pinch that left the shape of his fingers on my skin. We both stared at the marks like they were evidence. He kissed the spot after and told me he was sorry. We watched a movie on the couch with the sound turned down low. On the screen, a boy chose the right door. In our house, all the doors felt the same. Still, there were good days. Roads lined with maple trees blazing red in October. He drove us home with both hands on the wheel and told me a joke so dumb I snorted. He bought me a necklace with a tiny silver heart and said it was because I was the best mom. The heart turned my skin green. I wore it anyway. He was charming at school, teachers adored him, girls noticed him, boys wanted to stand near whatever warmth he threw off when he walked into a room. That warmth could make you forget the cold shadow it cast. Senior year blurred, caps and gowns. A letter he hid for 3 days because he wanted to see my face when he told me he got into the college he wanted. We danced the wiggle in the kitchen just once like old times. For a moment it felt like the boy I knew had only been napping. Then he met a girl, not yet a storm, the first wind. I knew her name before I knew her face. Vanessa. It arrived in my house like a perfume I couldn't place, light, expensive, a little too sweet. He said it casually. Vanessa and I might study later. Vanessa likes that Thai place across town. Vanessa thinks I should cut my hair. I smiled. I washed the same plate twice. I told myself not to make a fuss. The night I first heard her last name, I was folding laundry. A TV in the other room laughed without us. His phone lit the kitchen with a cold blue. Stone, the screen said. The letters looked heavy, like something you'd said on a grave. He noticed me notice. She's great, Mom, he said, eyes too bright to be steady. You'll love her. Then, softer, a warning disguised as a promise. She gets me, I wanted to ask, from what? But I didn't. I near bit my tongue to keep the peace. He brought her over once early on, a white blouse crisp as an envelope, a watch that told time and status. Her handshake was perfect. Her eyes moved past me, not unkind, just past, like her mind was already in a room where I hadn't been invited. We ate pasta at the table with the scratch from Ryan's first toy truck. She complimented the sauce and then asked about our neighborhood in a way that wasn't really a question. When I offered seconds, she smiled without teeth. That's okay, I'm careful. I felt suddenly aware of the faded paint on the window trim. The wonky chair leg we always forgot to fix. The way my hands looked older under the kitchen light. After they left, I found my mother's handkerchief on the back of the couch, the edge caught on a splinter like it had tried to hold on and failed. I tucked it back into my purse. It felt like putting a picture back on a wall after the nail has shifted. People say love is enough. They don't mention how often love is asked to carry loads it was never built to bear. Looking back, the cracks were already there, in a Tuesday with a cruel sentence, in a wrist gripped too hard, in the way a girl's gaze could make a mother feel like clutter. I told myself not to make a fuss. Again and again, like a prayer with the wrong God listening. If you want to know how we got to the slap, you have to know this. The boy I once knew was a good boy, but goodness is not armor. And someone would soon teach him how to use his hands, not for comfort, but for control. She thought teenage storms would pass. But when Vanessa Stone set her rules, Alina realized the weather in her own house had changed, and the first condition of the engagement would cut deeper than any slap. Rules don't arrive with trumpets, they arrive folded into napkins. The text came on a Thursday. Dinner at my parents' this Sunday, 6 p.m., smart casual, nothing loud. A smiley face without warmth. I stood in my closet and held a navy dress up to the light. Classic, quiet, safe as a closed door. I ironed the hem and pressed my mother's handkerchief smooth, old stitches. New nerves. The stone house looked exactly like its name. Stone walls, stone path, a front door that didn't open, it announced itself. Inside, lemon polish and a coolness that wasn't just the air. Paintings watched us from their frames. The rugs swallowed sound. Vanessa kissed the air near my cheek. Alina, she said like a decision. Ryan hovered, hands in pockets, smile too practiced. Behind them, Mr. and Mrs. Stone approached as if they owned the earth and had the deed to this conversation too. Call me Lydia, she said, her pearls clicking softly. Martin, he said, hand dry as paper. Charmed. We moved to a dining room long enough to hold winter, silver that made me sit up straighter. A crystal bowl of lemons you don't dare touch. Place cards, I found mine near the end. They served a clear soup that reflected the chandelier. Outside spoon, Lydia murmured, polite as a correction on a test. I changed my hand midair and tried not to blush. Vanessa's smile didn't reach her eyes. Ryan looked at his napkin like it might explain the world. The conversation began gently. Weather, work, florist, I said. How creative, Lydia said. Seasonal, reliable, I said, and sipped water that tasted like a coin. Then came the binder, a white leather book with gold tabs, the plan embossed like scripture. Vanessa opened it with a manicure that could cut. "We're thinking muted tones," she said. "For photos." She didn't look at me when she said it. She didn't need to. Lydia nodded. "Champagne is flattering at your age," she added. I thought of my closet. I saw the dress I would choose. I saw it before she finished the sentence. "Speeches," Martin said, voice easy, hand heavy. "We'll keep it tight, best man." "Father of the bride." His glance slid over me in a way like a ship that wouldn't dock. "No open mic," Vanessa said. "It gets messy." I folded my hands. I thought of all the words I'd saved up since he was born. I placed them back on a shelf like a set of good dishes I'd never use. "Front rows," Vanessa said, flipping a tab. "We want the ceremony intimate up front, immediate family only." She laid the words down like coasters. "Of course," I said. I don't know why it sounded like an apology. "Photos," Lydia smiled, all teeth now. "No phones during the vows, and after, please refrain from posting. We'll share approved images." Approved. As if love needed a watermark. "Hair up," Vanessa said. "Up does photograph better at your—" She stopped just in time for the compliment to miss. "Age," I supplied softly. She blinked, surprised I'd help carry the weight. "And a leaner," Vanessa continued, voice smooth. "Just so there's no confusion on the day, if people ask, please don't bring up Ryan's father. We're focusing on forward. Clean lines." "Fresh start?" She smiled like she'd arranged flowers on my tongue to keep it still. Ryan cleared his throat. "It's just easier," he said, and reached for his water like it might drown him. He wore the word "we" like a new jacket. "We thought it would be simpler," he added and pulled the lapels tighter. The salad arrived crisp enough to crack. "Pine nuts," Lydia said. "Not everyone tolerates them." She looked at me. I chewed carefully. Vanessa reached into her bag and slid me a single page. "Just housekeeping," she said. "So nothing gets lost, okay? A list, bullet points neat as stitches, no personal toasts. Neutral palette, preferably champagne or Dove. No perfume, sensitive guests. No +1, please avoid emotional displays. Do not contact vendors directly." All questions threw me. I read each line and felt them land like tiny coins in a jar, not heavy alone. Deafening together. "Any concerns?" Martin asked, generous as a loan with terms. "No," I said. My voice sounded like it came from the bottom of a well. "Lovely," Lydia said. "We so appreciate women who don't make a fuss." The compliment had teeth. We moved to the main course, fish that flaked like a secret. Vanessa corrected the angle of Ryan's knife with 2 fingers. He breathed out. I watched her touch become instruction, instruction become habit. "Tell us a cute story," Lydia said to me, eyes bright with permission. "Something from when he was little." I started with waffles, the wiggle. "Saturday mornings that smelled like maple and soap. How we danced in circles until the radio cracked with laughter." Vanessa tilted her head. "Adorable," she said, chewing. "Maybe keep those family quirks just between us." I find sentiment can flatten an event's tone. Flatten, like ironing out the wrinkles that made us a family. Ryan didn't meet my eyes. He chased a piece of lemon across his plate like it might save him. I put my napkin down. "Of course," I said. It was becoming my favorite lie. Dessert arrived with a flourish and a candle that wasn't for me. They toasted with a white wine that tasted like polite rain. "To new beginnings," Martin said. "To doing it right," Lydia added. "To us," Vanessa finished, owning the pronoun. Ryan lifted his glass a heartbeat late. After, in the marble hall, Vanessa touched my arm, a soft grip with a steel center. "Oh, and one more thing," she said. "Ryan and I decided to use first names in public. It's more elegant, so maybe save Mom for private moments." She smiled as if she'd offered me a favor, a courtesy, a downgrade. I nodded because my body knows how to nod. My mouth wanted to say something else. It chose silence, the safer room. On my way out, I passed a framed photograph of the stones at a beach where the sand looked expensive. No wind had dared touch their hair. No one had closed their eyes mid-laugh. Everything in focus, everything approved. Ryan walked me to the curb. The sky had turned the color of dishwater. "Thanks for coming," he said. "A sentence you give delivery men." He started to hug me, then noticed a window. His arms lowered, obedient to glass. I reached up and fixed the curl near his temple anyway. He flinched just enough for the night to notice. Vanessa's just organized, he said, not meeting the part of me that still believed. She keeps things from getting messy. He tried to laugh, it fell between us and didn't break. I touched my purse and felt the edge of my mother's handkerchief, old thread steady in my fingers. My inheritance of softness carried into a house where softness had to ask permission. At home, I put the list on my kitchen table. I smoothed the paper like it might purr. I wrote the rules out in my own hand so I wouldn't forget and embarrass anyone. Wear champagne, sit where told, don't speak unless asked. Love quietly. The truth is, the rules were never about one day. They were a map with a single destination, smaller. People think cruelty arrives as a blow. Sometimes it drips, a correction here, a boundary there, a smile that edits you. I told myself I could follow their rules and still be myself. I told myself it was a small price to watch my son be happy. I told myself the person I was didn't matter as much as the person he might become. I told myself a story. It was almost convincing. Weeks later, the engagement party invite came on heavy paper that felt like a verdict. Gold script. A note tucked inside, we've streamlined the program to prevent surprises. Underlined twice, I ironed my dress, I pinned my hair. I tucked the handkerchief in my purse like a promise I hadn't learned to word yet. And somewhere between a bullet point and a bow, I felt it, the smallest rise inside me. A tide against a stone. She thought obeying would keep her son close. But at the engagement party, the first no would slip out of her mouth, and Vanessa Stone would make sure a leaner paid for saying it. Not every wound announces itself. Some arrive as paper. The invitation was thick enough to be a door. Heavy cream card, gold script that curled like it knew it would be photographed. Engagement celebration. A note tucked inside, underlined twice. We've streamlined the program to prevent surprises. Streamlined, such a pretty word for smaller. I ironed my champagne dress, pinned my hair in a careful twist, tucked my mother's handkerchief into my purse. Old thread, new resolve. I told myself I'd be Grace. The venue was a glass garden at the edge of the city. String quartet under twinkle lights. White peonies in mirrored cubes, gorgeous, imported, scentless. Flowers that looked like flowers behaved the way Vanessa liked people to behave. Perfect, quiet, photogenic. At the door, a young woman with a clipboard scanned me like a barcode. Vendors to the left, she chirped, not looking up. I'm not a vendor, I said. I'm the groom's mother. The look she gave me was quick and apologetic, a paper cut with a smile. Inside, monograms floating in candlelight. R+V stamped on cocktail napkins, on drink stirrers, on a wall of hedge where pictures would be taken later. Ryan and Vanessa stood beneath it, their silhouettes neat as an ad. Vanessa kissed the air near my cheek. "Alina," she said, "so glad you could make it." Could, as if my presence were a calendar slot she'd approved. Ryan's smile was good. Practice makes permanent. He squeezed my hand, small, invisible, then let go like someone might see. "Photos in 10, Vanessa said, sliding away. "Family first, then friends, then anyone. Anyone, a soft way to say the rest. I found my place card on a small table by the kitchen door. E. Carter, table 11. The cardstock was thick, the location was not. In the distance, I could see the head table, a runway of crystal for the stones in the future. A server passed with a tray of blushing drinks. I took one, bright, tart, controlled. Somewhere a speaker clicked. The quartet shifted to something that sounded expensive. People brushed by and told me who I was. "Alina, so nice to meet Ryan's supporter." "Alina, you must be thrilled." What a blessing for him. Blessing like a weather pattern he'd stumbled into. A woman with a low bun and a headset approached. "Mrs. Carter," she asked, careful with the honorific like it might stain, "could you help us at the gift table for a moment? You have such tidy hands." I smiled. Sorted envelopes into a velvet box with a gold lock, the key tethered with ribbon, counting other people's congratulations. The first photo call snapped the room into formation. "Stone family," the photographer called, cheerful and brisk. They arranged themselves beneath the hedge wall. Vanessa in the center, Lydia to the left, Martin to the right, uncles and cousins filling in like pieces that already knew where they belonged. Carter sighed, the photographer added, scanning for shapes to match the list. I moved forward. Vanessa's hand lifted a conductor's cue and landed lightly on my forearm. We'll do immediate first, she murmured. Then big happy group. Her smile was perfect. Her eyes were measuring. My body knows how to step back. It learned at grocery stores and parent nights and Thursdays at the library. It took one step. It almost took two. No. It wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. I felt it leave my mouth, small and clean like the first stitch in a torn seam. I'd like one with my son, I said. Everything slowed just enough for the air to have texture. Ryan looked at me. Then at the hedge, then at Vanessa. Of course, he said too quickly. Let's. Vanessa's smile widened a millimeter. Absolutely, she said. One quick one. She stepped to the side to make room between us. We posed, me on one edge, Ryan in the middle, Vanessa between like an elegant comma. Her hand lived on his lapel. I rested mine at my side. Flash. Great, the photographer chirped. Next up, the image was captured, contained, approved. A moment I'd fought for, already formatted. After that, the cuts came easily. A waiter skipped me twice with the champagne, then apologized to my shoulder. Someone asked me if the flowers were silk. I said no, real, and she looked disappointed. A cousin introduced me as a leaner, she's very sweet. Lydia's hand found my elbow and gently rotated me away from a conversation I hadn't started yet. At my table, the centerpiece was slightly wilted. Table 1 glittered like a promise. A young man in a slim suit sat beside me. Vendor, he asked kindly. Mother, I said. Oh, he said, and sweat appeared instantly at his hairline. He told me about the new restaurant opening in the Stones building. He called it opportunity. I called it Tuesday in his voice. Toasts began. Martin's was a silk rope. He pulled it and everyone laughed on cue. Lydia's was a mirror, polished until no one could see their pores. Vanessa's friends spoke of college and grit. When she said Vanessa never settled for less than excellent, the room agreed with its hands. No one asked me to speak, per the rules. I kept my mouth closed. My fingers found the handkerchief in my purse and worried the embroidered initials like beads. Between courses, a woman from the planning team leaned in. Just a heads up, she said sweetly. Seating for the ceremony is super limited. We'll do Stones, then wedding party parents, then your third row, section B. It's actually a beautiful angle for photos. She patted my arm as if she'd given me a sunlit balcony. I nodded because nodding keeps a person from breaking. Inside, something shifted a quarter inch to the left. Vanessa floated toward our table, all shine and control. She touched Ryan's shoulder as if she were checking a garment for fit. Have you tried the sea bass, Alina? She asked. It's delicate. I have, I said. It falls apart if you look at it too long. We both smiled like we hadn't heard what I said. Later, by the hedge wall, they did the big happy group. I stood in the second row, a neat head among other neat heads. When the photographer counted to 3, I didn't know where to put my hands. On 1, I placed them together. On 2, I thought of Ryan's first fever, the cloth on his brow, the hum of the radiator. On 3, I remembered to smile. After, an assistant asked if I could hold 4 purses just for a sec. I did. The straps bit into my wrist. Another paper cut, leather this time. A man from the Stone side I'd never met told me how lucky we were. Vanessa has taste, he said, glancing around as if taste were a military victory. Some families bring chaos. He didn't mean me, he meant anything that wasn't this. I excused myself and found the hallway, cool tile, muffled music. I ran cold water over my fingers until they forgot the straps. In the mirror, I looked like a woman not currently losing anything. It was almost convincing. When I came out, Ryan was waiting. He had that old boy look for a second, the one that said he'd skinned his knee and didn't know yet if it would scar. Hey, he said, you okay? Of course, I answered. It was becoming my easiest lie. He shifted. I know the seating feels, it's just Vanessa wants. He was building a bridge with words that didn't have any planks. I saved him. I get it, I said, streamlined. We both smiled, and the smile held like a picture hung with the wrong nail. Vanessa appeared, hand on his back. Photos with the donors, she said softly. To me, thank you for being flexible. Flexible. Another pretty word for bent. I went back to table 11 and tasted my cake slowly. Lemon, sweet. A sting you consent to. On the program card laid at each place, there was a section called Acknowledgements. Thank you to our families, it read. Underneath the stones, no second line, just a white space that glowed like an exit sign. When the night ended, I helped the planner collect stray place cards and tuck them into a small box. She thanked me like I was part of the team. Maybe I was. Every event needs someone to move quietly along the edges, smoothing corners no one will remember. On the curb, Ryan kissed the air near my cheek. Drive safe, he said. Delivery man words again. His hug started, noticed a window, stopped. I straightened his tie anyway. For a moment his throat moved like a swallowed word. At home, I set my place card on the kitchen table. E. Carter, weighty, elegant, wrong. I laid the engagement party note beside it, streamlined, underlined twice. I took out my mother's handkerchief and placed it on top of both, as if thread could bless paper. Exile doesn't always announce itself with a slammed door. Sometimes it's a path of velvet ropes you don't notice until you're already walking between them. In the days that followed, a tasting I wasn't invited to, a group chat I wasn't in. A just touching base call from Lydia that never touched my base. A PDF proof of the program where my name was a rumor. A seating update, third row confirmed. I kept telling myself small losses don't add up to a theft. Math has never lied to me so politely. I made chamomile tea, honey, steam. I drank it alone and did not cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because I didn't want to smear anything. No was still in my mouth, tiny, clean. Bright as a pin, I knew I'd use it again. She thought the worst they could take was her seat. Then she saw the program and her name was gone. What she did next would put a crack in Vanessa's perfect glass. Ink doesn't forget, it decides. The email arrived at 11:13 p.m. Subject line, Final Program V7. A PDF that hummed with late-night certainty. I scrolled. Parents of the bride, Lydia and Martin Stone. Parents of the groom, a dash. Blank wearing a tuxedo. I printed a copy on my florist's old machine. The paper came out warm, smelling faintly of damp stems and thyme. I took a red pen and wrote my name in the space they'd left open like a wound. Alina Carter. The page looked briefly healed. I called Ryan, voicemail, his voice younger by recording. Hey, it's me, I said. Love you, call when you can. I called Vanessa. She answered on the second ring, voice sweet like a rapper. Oh, Alina, she sighed. We went minimal, clean, symmetry reads best. Listing only the stones keeps the design balanced. Balanced, as if my existence tilted her page. You forgot someone, I said. We didn't forget, she said, softer, lower. We streamlined. Family of the groom covers it. My name isn't clutter, I said, a pause that appraised me. We can discuss tomorrow, she said. It's very late. The planner picked up on the fourth try, breezy, apologetic, professionally kind. Totally hear you, Alina. Let me circle back with the couple and loop the printer. My life now a loop. I put the kettle on at the shop. The night smelled like green stems and the iron tang of scissors. I wrote an email with hands that didn't shake. Please add, mother of the groom, Alina Carter, not family, my name, I didn't wait. The PDF footer had a vendor tag. Juniper & Co. Printworks. Job 4821, I called. A man with ink under his nails answered. I could hear it in his voice. We haven't run them yet, he said. We're queued. We just need client approval. Words as simple as water. Morning came with a text from Ryan. Mom, please don't contact vendors. It's causing drama. Vanessa is stressed. Please, drama. Such an efficient word for a woman asking to exist. Vanessa called before breakfast. I wish you'd trusted the process, she said. Now we have to adjust timeline. It's a lot for all of us. I'll pay, I said, for the change, for the rush. For every program, send me the invoice. She laughed once, not unkind, just amazed I'd volunteer to carry the price. That won't be necessary, she said. We can do an elegant sticker overlay, charming actually, sticker. A band-aid over a missing limb. No, I said, small, clean the pin again. My name goes in the same ink as everyone else's. The air cooled between us. All right, she said, we'll adjust. And just so the days stay calm, we're keeping the rehearsal dinner strictly bridal party. Flow is important. Flow, such a graceful way to say stay home. Lydia chimed in an hour later, pearls in her voice even over the phone. We treasure clarity, she said. Programs are keepsakes, the fewer words, the more timeless. I don't want timeless, I said. I want accurate. Silence arranged itself in a symmetrical shape. At noon, the printer sent a proof. Parents of the groom, Mother Eleanor Carter, black letters, no apology. I took the bus across town and held the wet sample in my hands. Ink has a smell when it's new, a little like ozone, a little like thunder waiting. I traced the E with my finger and felt something unspool in my chest. Not victory, recognition. I paid the rush fee out of savings I kept for broken fridges and quiet Christmases. It stung in the right way. The price arrived anyway. A new email thread titled Boundaries, CC'd to people with signatures longer than mine. A seating refinement. Third row, section B became third row, section C. Hair and makeup reallocations to keep logistics lean. A cousin's call, Vanessa says you're under a lot, we're giving you space. I set the sample program on my kitchen table, laid my mother's handkerchief over it, old thread. New letters, my name sheltered by everything that taught me to be soft and stand anyway. Ryan knocked that evening. He looked like my boy and a man I didn't know layered. Why make this a fight? He asked. It's just ink. It's never just ink, I said. It's the story people take home. He rubbed his eyes. She's trying so hard. I know, I said. So am I. He glanced at the program, at the handkerchief, at me. Something moved in his face and then, like a cautious animal, moved back. People think erasure is quiet. Sometimes it's the loudest thing in the room, a blank that hums, a dash that shouts. They printed my name. A hairline crack appeared in Vanessa's perfect glass. Tiny, visible to anyone who knows how to look, and Glass remembers the first crack. She got her name in ink. At the rehearsal, they'd take something you can't reprint, and when the corsage didn't arrive, Eleanor would realize the performance had a part for her after all. Silence, corsages are small crowns, quiet ways to say you belong. I've spent a lifetime pinning belonging to strangers. Roses for birthdays, gardenias for graduations, petals that whisper we see you. So when the corsage didn't come, the silence had a stem. The email arrived like a call sheet. Rehearsal 4 p.m. St. Augustine. Mother's pinning 3:40 processional blocking. 4:10 stone family prayer. 4:25 rehearsal dinner. Bridal party only. I circled mother's pinning. I even underlined it. I wanted to be where I was asked to be. The church was cool and faintly damp, stone that always remembers rain. Blue painters tape X the aisle, marking where people should exist. The coordinator held an iPad like scripture. Let's find our places, she sang. Parents of the bride, she said, and Lydia glided forward, pearls nodding. Parents of the groom, she said, and her eyes slid to me, then to the pew. Third row, section C, she finished, warm as a winter sun that won't melt anything. I sat, they ran the walk. Vanessa practiced her pause at the altar, half smile, chin down, eyes soft. Ryan adjusted his cuffs like they meant something. The organist played the first bars, then stopped, then started again. Perfection needs second chances. Mothers do not. Family blessing, the coordinator announced. Lydia and Martin will say we give our blessing. Then we continue. I raised my hand. How about the groom's mother? I asked. I kept my voice wrapped in velvet. The coordinator blinked kindly. To keep it modern, she said, we're consolidating the moment, one blessing, clean lines. Just one line, I said, from me, be kind. The room tilted, not much, just enough to feel the slope. Vanessa's smile cooled a degree. It's not on the program, she said. We're tight on flow. Then let me say it now, I answered. And I turned to Ryan, my boy, layered beneath the man, and I said it plain, be kind. It wasn't loud. But sound carries in a church. It climbed the stone and came back twice as true. Vanessa looked at the coordinator. The coordinator looked at her iPad. A finger swiped. Okay, she said brightly. We'll remove the family blessing entirely. On the day, we'll go straight to vows. Erased again, but this time both sides. I had protected my line and lost the moment. Math that hurt. Pin-ons, an assistant called, appearing with a white bakery box tied in satin. She flipped a checklist. Boutonnieres for groomsmen check, father of the bride check, grandmother's check, mother of the bride special orchid check, mother of the groom, her finger paused at a dash. No listing, she chirped, recovering. Going clean on that side. That side, I repeated softly. I am that side. The assistant softened. I heard Mother's pinning is at dinner, she offered. We'll get you tomorrow. I nodded because nodding is what keeps a person from shattering in public. Inside, something slid a quarter-inch out of place. Rehearsal ended with a tidy clap. People filed to cars like well-trained birds. The Stone family prayer happened in a side chapel with the door mostly closed. I saw their silhouettes. They looked like a framed picture of belonging. At home, the house felt too still, as if it were listening for my footsteps and not hearing enough. I went to my shop, turned on one lamp. The air smelled like green stems and the honest bite of floral tape. If they wouldn't give me a corsage, I would make one I could wear without apology. I chose stephanotis, small stars that mean marital joy. Added a sprig of rosemary remembrance because I remember when my son was only mine. White ribbon, 2 pearl pins. I wrote a tiny tag in my best script, Mother of the Groom, Carter. It looked right, it looked like a sentence I needed. My phone buzzed, reminder from planning. Please refrain from bringing personal florals. Scent sensitivities. We must protect cohesion. Protector, such a noble word for offense. I set the corsage in a plastic clamshell and tucked it into the cooler. I closed the door and listened to it seal with a sound like a quiet no. The rehearsal dinner happened without me. Photos bloomed on other people's screens, a candlelit table, laughing mouths. Lydia's wrist, delicate and sure, circled by a white orchid. The caption, family first. I turned off my phone, made soup, didn't taste it, washed the bowl, dried it, put it back with a care no one would see. Ryan texted at 10:19. Long day, big day tomorrow, love you. I stared at the screen until my reflection looked like someone else. I typed be kind, I deleted it. I typed proud of you. I deleted that too. I sent sleep. Morning came with the kind of sun that makes people forgive each other. My corsage did not come. A courier delivered to the Stones at 8, according to a tracking link I wasn't meant to have. To me, nothing. My door stayed a door. At the church, an usher glanced at his list and smiled gently. Third row, section C, he said. I knew the way. I touched the place on my dress where a corsage would live, bare, light as an absence. I took my mother's handkerchief from my purse, folded edge to corner, pinned it to my lining where only I could feel it, old thread against my side, a private crown. They were right. The performance had a part for me after all. Silence. But silence isn't empty. It's full of everything you decide not to swallow. I kept one word like a pearl in my mouth. No, small, clean, useful. I knew I'd need it soon. She walked into the ceremony wearing nothing but her name and a hidden thread. After the vows, the reception would glitter. And when Alina finally told one truth at table 11, Vanessa would pick her stage. 2 slaps later, the room would go silent for a different reason. Glass looks honest. It shows you everything and nothing it doesn't want to break. Morning came pale and careful. I curled my hair myself, a dab of powder. Lipstick I could blot away fast. Champagne dress ironed to stillness. Handkerchief pinned to the lining where only I could feel it. Old thread, quiet courage. I made tea and didn't drink it. Steam climbed, then gave up. The church held its cool like a secret. Stone that remembered rain. Stained glass pouring colored light on the aisle so even the floor looked blessed. No incense, scent sensitivities. Just candle wax and lilies that had been told to behave. An usher smiled at a list. Third row, section C, he said. My body knew the way by now. At the end of the pew, a small basket of programs, thick paper, raised ink, parents of the groom, Mother Alina Carter. I touched the letters once. Didn't smear them, wouldn't give anyone that satisfaction. People filed in like notes on a staff. Lydia's pearls arrived before she did. Martin practiced his dignified nod, the one he used on people he didn't tip. The planner moved in quiet circles, holding chaos by the collar. Phones off, someone whispered. The organ found its breath. My heart counted measures. Then the hush, Vanessa at the door, framed exactly, veil like smoke. Dress that swallowed light and gave back glow. Her arm threaded through her father's, her back a straight line no one could edit. They stepped in perfect counts. The room obeyed, Ryan at the altar. His smile flickered and then found itself. For a moment the boy I knew looked out through the man's eyes. It was a flash, it was enough to hurt. The efficient spoke in a voice tuned to fall beautifully on video. "We gather to witness," he said, witness. Such a generous word for spectators. They had rewritten the script modern, efficient, no who gives, no blessing. We went from promise to promise like stepping stones across a creek no one would admit could sweep you away. Stand, sit, turn, smile, public choreography. Private ache, Vanessa's vows were perfect. Measured bright, the kind that sound like doors unlocking. Challenge, she said, build, excellence. Words like marble, smooth, cold, permanent. Ryan's voice shook on the first line. Then remembered the camera. "I will love you," he said, and his mouth knew the path. "I will protect you." I thought of a small hand gripping my finger in a hospital room. I thought of be kind. No one asked me to speak. They had already removed that hinge. Rings, a pause polished on every edge, the kiss clean and correct, the room exhaled on cue, applause like rain you schedule. I clapped third row, section C, not because I was told. Because I needed the sound to fill the space where my words weren't. Recessional, they floated past like a picture you'd be fined for touching. Bubbles outside, silent, tidy, approved. No rice, no seeds. Nothing that might stain or take root. On the steps, someone said perfection, someone else said taste. A camera blinked 1,000 small permissions. An assistant pressed her headset. "Family photos," she called, voice sugared and firm. "Stones first, then wedding party, then groups." I moved when the word family was said. The planner's hand found air near my elbow and steered it without touching. "Just a beat," she whispered. Flow, I waited on the church lawn, shoes sinking a little into well-watered grass, heads together, faces forward. Vanessa in the center again, the world arranged around a nucleus. They waved me in for the wide shot. Second row left of someone who smelled like new money and vanilla. Flash, approved. Ryan broke free for a moment, came to me. "Hey," he said, soft, almost private. "You good?" "I am," I said. I didn't add yet. He looked like he wanted to say something else. Then Vanessa called his name, and that something retreated like a shy animal into trees. Lydia floated over, pearls lit like small moons. "So elegant," she said, meaning the ceremony, the photos, the control. "Let's keep the tone," she added, a request shaped like a reminder, shaped like a rule. "Of course," I answered. The lie was the smallest it had ever been. A volunteer handed me a favor bag so pretty I felt judged. Inside, a cookie with their initials, R+V, pressed into sugar. I thought of my own initials, stitched into cloth that had outlasted everything but my name. Buses hummed. Cars lined up like obedient thoughts. The planner clapped once, soft, satisfied. "Reception," she sang. "Let's move." The sky wore that bright neutral of good wedding photographers. Shadows without teeth, everything ready to be remembered correctly. I smoothed my dress, checked the pin inside my lining. Old thread, steady heartbeat under my thumb. I knew what I could control, how I would sit, what I would swallow, what I would not. The doors to the reception hall waited like teeth. The church held, glass didn't break there. But under chandeliers and polished eyes, one small truth at table 11 would nudge the first crack wide. And when Vanessa chose her stage, Ryan would choose his hands. Chandeliers don't just shine, they listen. The reception hall was all crystal and certainty. Mirrored pillars, a dance floor polished like a promise. R+V floated on the wall in white light, initials pretending to be destiny. A quartet became a playlist. The bass was tasteful, contained. Ice chimed in glasses like careful teeth. At the entrance, a seating chart the size of a sermon. Stone, 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 then a scatter of other names like confetti someone would sweep later. Table 11 waited near the kitchen swing door. E. Carter, printed with confidence I did not feel. The napkin was folded into an obedient shape. From my chair, the head table looked like a runway. Vanessa in the middle, Lydia and Martin flanking, Ryan a clean line at her side. Candles made their faces look like they'd never known bad light. A server appeared. "Sparkling still?" "Still," I said. Bubbles weren't the kind of lift I needed. Around me sat polite strangers and a cousin I could recognize by proximity to pearls. A young man in a slim suit from before, vendor, opportunity, nodded like he wished me joy. A woman with a soft floral dress and a stone mouth asked the question like it was harmless. Will Ryan's father be joining? There it was. One of the rules wrapped in a bow. I could have nodded. I could have smiled into the napkin. I could have lied to keep the room even. I said the smallest truth I had, quiet as a seam. He left when Ryan was 7, I answered. It's been us since. I didn't add the pajamas. I didn't add the Saturdays. The woman shaped her lips into an O that wanted to be pity and settled for surprise. That must have been hard. It was a life, I said. Then I took a sip of water and let it be. That's all. No violin, no confession, just a sentence. But rooms like this are made of wire. One word touches one ear, then another, then the chandelier knows. Across the floor, Vanessa caught the whisper the way a hawk catches light. Her smile didn't move, her eyes did. A small tilt to the planner. A nod to the MC. A recalibration, silent, efficient, dressed like grace. The first course arrived, something green pretending not to be nervous. The MC tapped his mic once, twice. Ladies and gentlemen, he beamed. Let's give a round of applause for our hosts, the Stones, for this elegant evening. Hands obeyed. Tonight is all about joy, he added. No heavy stories, no surprises, just love. The words were for everyone, the aim was not. Lydia's hand found her pearls. Vanessa lifted her glass and scanned the room like a teacher who already knows the answer. Ryan laughed at something the best man said and then stopped laughing a half-second late. A woman at my table dabbed at her eyes. Weddings always get me, she said. I slid my handkerchief from my purse, not the pinned one, the spare, and gave it to her. She blinked at the initials. E, she read. Eleanor, I said. Mothers carry thread. The second course tasted like approval. I swallowed carefully. From table 11 you can learn a lot about a family, what they toast, what they correct, who they forget. They toasted donors, mentors, the caterer, the florist, not me, floristry adjacent, and a beloved family friend who stepped in like a second mother. The room applauded as if kindness were a trademark. Somewhere between applause and dessert, the planner's headset glowed. She leaned toward Vanessa. Vanessa murmured a script only they could hear. The MC brightened. Before we open the floor, he announced, a quick reminder. We want to keep tonight clean, modern, joyful. Please refrain from personal history that doesn't serve the couple's story. Personal history, a category that can swallow a life. I kept my hands in my lap, folded, still. Ryan looked toward our table then, just a flick. His face a city at night, some windows lit, some dark, a street you can't see from here. The head table stood for photographs. I watched Vanessa place people as if she were arranging furniture. A chair here, a cousin there, Lydia brought forward into better light. Her fingers were small and decisive. Her smile stayed kind enough to frame and flat enough to stack. My table mates asked me small questions. Where do you work? The florist on Delaney. What do you recommend this season? Zinnias, they forgive. We smiled at the same joke in different meanings. When the salad plates disappeared, a woman with a headset touched my shoulder, not a hand, just the idea of one. Eleanor, she said softly, there's been a tiny change to the family thank you moment. We're keeping it streamlined. Streamlined. The old hymn, I'll be right here, I said. My voice didn't wobble, it didn't have to. The best man stood, charming and loose. He told safe stories, no edges. The maid of honor followed, polished and warm. She said Vanessa had a gift for editing the chaos out of any room. The room clapped as if that were love. Then the MC again. Let's bring up our radiant bride to say a few words, he sang. Vanessa rose into the light like it recognized her. She thanked the Stones. She thanked the village who made this vision possible. She thanked the staff, the photographer, the violinist who pivoted so elegantly when we went modern. She thanked Ryan for choosing excellence. And to all our guests, she concluded, eyes sweeping, brushing past, thank you for keeping today focused. We celebrate what brought us here, not what was left behind. A sentence that wears perfume and bites. My fork made a small sound against china, not loud, precise. The cousin in florals glanced at me. I'm sure she didn't mean. Of course, I said, our favorite lie had found a friend. The room loosened. Music returned, careful and bright. Candle flames steadied like they'd passed a test. And still, table 11 is where truths collect. Small ones, polite ones, the kind that fit inside a napkin fold. Another woman leaned in, drunk on bubbles and approval. You must be so relieved Ryan found structure. She didn't mean it as a knife. Knives don't always mean it. I could have nodded. I could have agreed with the room. He always had structure, I said. Kindness is a structure. There it was, the first truth that didn't bow, not loud, not wild, just upright. Across the floor, Vanessa heard it without hearing it. She watched my mouth from 30 feet away and read the shape of the word. Kind, a word that doesn't fit in marble. Her hand found Ryan's arm, a whisper, a look, a decision. The MC dimmed the lights a shade, the exact shade that tells cameras to attend. Before we open the dance floor, he said, the couple has a brief housekeeping note. Housekeeping, such a tidy way to move furniture out of a room. Vanessa's smile beamed. Thank you for honoring our boundaries tonight, she said. In that spirit, we're asking everyone to keep conversations positive. If anyone needs a moment to collect themselves, our staff will help you find a quiet space. Everyone. Anyone, words that can point without pointing. Ryan cleared his throat by her side. His jaw had learned a new angle. From table 11, I watched the stage assemble itself, lights, mic, a little hush. A place where someone could be named without saying a name. The room took a breath. I took mine. I touched the stitch in my lining, old thread, steady against my ribs. I thought of Saturday waffles and rocket ship pajamas. Of zinnias forgiving the crooked. Of a boy who hummed when he slept. The kitchen door swung, a warm gust of dishwater and lemon. I held my glass with both hands. Across the room, Vanessa let go of Ryan's sleeve. He looked at me. He stepped off the head table like a man answering a call. I stayed seated. Table 11 stayed a number. The chandeliers listened. He was almost to me when the music thinned to nothing. A path opened, human, practiced, exact. I stood. Not to fight, to be the height of myself. He said my name the way you warn a fire. The room prepared to remember incorrectly. She said one true sentence and Vanessa made it a rule. He crossed the floor with all that new structure in his jaw, and when he reached her, the choice he made would echo until it broke. Some rooms remember only what flatters them. The rest, they teach themselves to forget. He was already crossing the floor, jaw set in its new angle, the MCS smile a lid on a pot. Vanessa's hand fell from his sleeve like she'd finished winding the watch. I stood, not to fight, to be the height of myself. Mom, he said, loud, public, correct. I need to talk to you. Of course, dear, I answered. Shall we step outside? No, he said. Here's fine. The chandeliers leaned in. Table 11 held its breath. Even the ice stilled in glasses. You were asked to keep it positive, he said. He didn't whisper. He wanted the room to learn the lesson at once. Why do you always have to be kind? I said, 2 words, my only theology. The crack of his hand against my cheek split the evening. Sound jumped, music fell out of the air like a bird shot clean. Forks stopped mid-flight, even the chandeliers forgot to shimmer. Heat bloomed, a hard, bright flower. My head turned because heads learn to go where they're pushed. Before my breath could find me, the second slap came. Faster, practice makes permanent. It wasn't the pain that made the floor tilt, it was the sight of him. My boy's face wearing a stranger's decisions, the way his eyes checked the room before they checked me. 200 eyes, some widened, some narrowed, some did their favorite trick, looked away. Mom, he said, the word scraped now. You're not welcome here, leave. It landed colder than winter, colder than church stone, colder than the third row. A hand brushed my elbow, not his, the planner. Let us help you to a quiet space, she murmured, as if calm were a leash. No, I said, small, clean, the word I'd been polishing. Vanessa's face stayed perfect. She didn't move, she didn't have to. Control rarely needs to cross a room. Lydia's pearls lifted, fell. Martin's mouth was a polite line drawn with a ruler. Someone near the head table whispered, oh. Someone near the bar whispered, finally. Ryan's chest rose, fell. He waited for me to cry. I didn't give him that sentence. I reached into my purse. Found the corner of my mother's handkerchief, old thread under new heat. I pressed it once just inside my palm where no camera could steal it. Then I did what I decided long before this room. I stood fully. I faced the 200 eyes. I let them keep whatever story they needed to feel comfortable in their clothes. And I walked, not fast, not sorry, step by step, head high. The kitchen door side opened somewhere behind me. The bass remembered it was music again. A voice said, let's bring the energy back up. Obedience returned like a tide. No one called my name. Names are for people you intend to meet again. In the foyer, the air forgot its perfume. Glass held fingerprints. A votive guttered, grateful to stop trying so hard. Outside, night had the mercy to be honest. Cold, clear, unimpressed, I put my hand to my cheek, heat there, heartbeat under it, a map of where he'd been. A valet glanced at me and then at the ground. Good boys are taught not to look. I tipped anyway. The taxi smelled like rain and vinyl. The driver didn't ask. He let his silence be a kind one. In the dark window, I saw the outline of a woman who had finally run out of room to be small. Behind her cheek, old stitches held. People think the slap is the story. It's just the cymbal crash. The music is what you hear after, the echo that points you to the room where it started. Who tuned the instruments? Who passed out the sheet music? Who decided family first meant some family only? I went home. Kettle, switch, whisper of gas, chamomile, honey, steam that didn't have to smile. I sat at my kitchen table, set down the program with my name printed in clean black, set the handkerchief on top, initials glowing faint. E for leaner. E for enough, I did not disappear. Inside, a quiet door unlatched. A room I'd kept closed out of hope opened itself. Hope had felt holy, it had also been cruel. My cheek throbbed, my hand didn't shake. Tomorrow I would begin. Not a performance, a practice. Finding the script I wasn't meant to see. Following the line from binder to mic to jaw. Tracing the place where a boy learned that a hand could be a sentence. Kindness is a structure, so is truth. So is a woman who stops making herself smaller and starts taking up her name. The room forgot. I wouldn't. She left the glitter and kept her name, and in the quiet she finally turned toward the why. In part 10, the echo leads her to the paper trail and the person behind it, and the truth she uncovers will cut deeper than a slap. Echoes don't just fade, they point. Morning found me in a quiet kitchen. A bruise rising under my cheekbone like a slow moon. Ice wrapped in a dish towel, it shushed against my skin. Kettle, switch, steam I didn't need, chamomile that didn't argue. I took a pen, not to perform, to practice. A list on a florist's receipt, church. Printer, planner, florals, me, I wasn't hunting revenge, I was following sound back to its source. The church first, stone that remembers rain, sun too honest to flatter. The sexton was sweeping glitter out of the nave. It sounded like a tiny storm. On a front pew, a binder had been forgotten, white leather, gold tabs, perfect teeth. The plan, I didn't open it. You don't read someone else's prayer in a sanctuary, it fell open anyway. A tab, family management, a page, notes, emoji, bullet points neat as stitches, use first name in public, seat 3C or further, cameras prefer symmetry. No mic access, remove family blessing if requested. If emotional, offer quiet space. Program, family of the groom preferred if pushback sticker overlay. Avoid corsage, scent sensitivity, also de-emphasize. At the bottom, a line that wasn't a bullet. Handwritten, different ink per groom, the echo adjusted itself in my chest, not louder, truer. I returned the binder to the pew, closed it gently like a lid on a sleeping thing. Left a $5 bill in the votive box and lit nothing. Printer next, Juniper & Co., ink under the voice again. Just confirming delivery, the man said. Your name printed clean. Who sent the first proof? I asked. The one with the dash, a pause with paper in it. Ma'am, he said, careful, we try to keep client details tight. He shuffled anyway, I could hear it. We received minimal text from the groom's address initially. The revision with your name came from you, we ran that. Per groom again, flat words heavy, the planner's office. I left a message because voices like mine are easier to ignore on voicemail. Then a text buzzed back from an unknown number. Hi Alina, it's Cass from planning, we spoke at the gift table. You helped me sort cards when we were slammed. You were kind. I shouldn't send this. Please don't mention me. A screenshot lit my phone. Subject, boundaries final from. Ryan. Carter at 2. Team, let's keep messaging clean. Prefer a leaner in public. Please minimize her role in printed materials. If she references single mom history or tries to add sentiment, QMC to redirect. Quiet room if needed. We want the day to stay positive and elevated. My name in his font, my life in their language. Elevated. I sat in my car and turned the radio off so even the air would listen. Florals. I went to my shop. green stems, honest coolers, a misdelivered courier envelope on the counter, the kind with a peel strip that resists then gives. Stone family mothers, it read. Inside, a packing slip. Mother of the bride, Lydia Stone, orchid wristlet, white premium mother of the groom, omit per groom, the words didn't shout. They arranged the room again. People think the slap is the worst part. It's not, it's the paperwork. It's finding your name on a line someone else drew and seeing who held the ruler. I made tea I would drink this time. Sat at my back table where ribbon lives and receipts go to be forgiven. Laid it all out like flowers before a bouquet. A page from a church binder with my initials absent. A printer's almost confession. A screenshot with my son's subject line. A packing slip that didn't leave room for a pin. I didn't cry. The room had had its tears. I wanted edges. I wrote my own tab on a plain manila folder. Echo work. Inside, a single page. Notes mine. I did not cause this. He chose. She helped. They liked the way his choice looked on paper. Kindness is a structure. So is distance. My phone lit again. Another text. Unknown number. Knew I saw what happened. It said, I'm sorry. I work sound. Not my place. But it wasn't just her. I typed thank you, then deleted it. Then sent. I know. I walked to the cooler, opened it, took out the corsage I'd made, stephanotis, rosemary, 2 pearl pins bright as little teeth. I pinned it to a mannequin bust we use for prom season. It looked like someone finally. At home, I sat at my kitchen table and wrote a letter. Not a plea, a boundary. Ryan, when you can come to my door with your own voice and the word kind in your mouth like a promise, you have a mother here. Until then, I am closing this door to cruelty. That is also love. I didn't send it, not yet. I slipped it into the Echo work folder. Afternoon softened into the kind of light that forgives kitchens. I took out pancake mix. Made waffles for one, danced the wiggle in my socks. It looked ridiculous. It felt like a vow. I planted zinnias by the leaning mailbox. Red, crooked, forgiving. The soil stained my hands. Good. Something real had decided to live with me. I stitched the edge of my mother's handkerchief where it had started to fray. Old thread, new knot. My thumb knew what to do. The truth is, the hurt didn't go away. It stood in the doorway like a tall guest who hadn't been invited and wouldn't be rude enough to leave. So I set a chair for it, poured it tea. Said, you can stay, but you don't get to speak for me. Night came honest. No chandeliers, no MC, no program. I took the program anyway, my name, black and simple, and tucked it in a drawer with the handkerchief. Not a shrine, a file. In bed the bruise pulsed, not vengeance, a metronome for patience. I thought of the boy who hummed when he slept, of the man who wrote omit per groom. Both are my son, both can't live here right now. I closed my eyes, the echo was quieter, not gone, just mapped. Tomorrow I would go to the library on a Thursday I hadn't worked in years. Sign up for a class, learn how to throw clay or a punchline, something with hands. I would show up for women who need a corsage and don't know how to pin it themselves. I would write down the names of every person who held me steady without asking for a program credit. I would answer the door when kindness knocked. The slap was a cymbal crash, the truth was the score, but I am the one who chooses the next song. Some echoes are warnings, some are maps. This one led her back to her own door, and she chose the only rule that made sense. Be kind and do not disappear.